Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Weekly Oscar Talk. Finally starting it back up. We're hitting September. We're hitting the fall festival season. 2023 Oscar season has begun in full force. Venice Film Festival currently happening. Telluride currently happening. TIFF in about a week. So we are going to talk about a lot of those recent films that have been screened and the reviews and how we think it changes their Oscar chances. And I'm going to be doing that here with Anthony.
Hello, everyone. Yes, it is September 4th, so of course we need to start talking about Oscar.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's kind of a year-round thing for us obsessives, but now's the time to really start it back up. But yeah, starting it off with, I think, the biggest thing to have happened so far in the festival season. Bardo debuted to some very mixed negative reviews. I believe it's rotten on Rotten Tomatoes and it's in the yellow on Metacritic, which is surprising considering the last two Iñárritu films did very well at the Oscars, did very well with critics. Most of his past movies have done well with critics and at the Oscars. The complaints for this movie seem to be it's 3 hours long. It's a little too long. It's a little self-indulgent. Oh my goodness, self-indulging. Yeah, and it's also the word narcissistic thrown around. So yeah, it doesn't seem to be resonating with people as much as his past films, and that has now thrown up into the air if it will be Netflix's main push still, as it was considered to be beforehand. It was considered to be their biggest contender, kind of like their Roma or Power of the Dog. But who knows now? What do you say, Anthony?
I think it's very interesting because this film not being in the English language is not as from the get-go was going to be not as commercially viable and wasn't going to be able to market to a mass audience as much as Birdman, a film about the film and art industry starring an all-star cast. And then The Revenant, which is not to be reductive, is a simple story in many ways. A tale about revenge starring Hollywood's leading man, Leonardo DiCaprio. So those movies felt more safe in terms of if you're judging an Oscar campaign, those are easier to campaign for. Bardo, which also has a fun subtitle. Let me see if I can find it. I think it's like Bardo, False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths. So this type of movie from the get-go, and we were talking about this last spring, is that this was already had some controversies with its production. It was always not going to be as simple a movie when it came to getting it awards as it had been for his previous two films. It seemed like he was going back to basics, back to his roots, similar to films like Babel in a way. The response is interesting because I think you see a lot of people who are very passionately against it, but also there are some people who are very passionately for it. Lulu Wang was somebody that I saw who tweeted out how much the film emotionally affected her. And you just need enough of those people to get it into a lot of these major categories because the name recognition alone and the fact that it's Netflix means it's going to be widely accessible and people will be interested in it. And this type of controversy could help it. I mean, we definitely saw, I think there was controversy about Joker. I'm not sure if any of the controversy came out of its screenings at Venice because it did win the Golden Lion there. So they obviously overall were positive. But as we saw with films like Joker, films like Don't Look Up, films like Les Miserables, a lot of films in the recent decade, we have seen controversial opinions, if passionate, can still maintain a campaign. And I think if you get enough people who think it's one of the worst movies of the year and it's one of the best movies of the year, that type of perspective and looking at the film in absolutes, I think will still keep Bardo in the conversation, which is what you need, especially when you premiere so early in the season. When you premiere in September, you need to kind of keep people talking about it. I think that's what benefited Don't Look Up, because not only was it coming from a filmmaker that the Academy has shown in the past that they really admired, giving them Oscars, people were talking about it. And it was on Netflix, which meant everybody could see it. So I do think that it's not a shut case with Bardo. I think if Netflix wasn't behind it, I would maybe say it has a stronger chance to fade away. But I think with Netflix behind it and the fact that they really don't have that many other contenders, this is probably their chief one. I still think it has a strong chance to still play. Let's see what happens when more critics get to see it. It's floating around 57% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is around where Don't Look Up is.
Hmm.
If it goes down to like 30, if it goes below, I think 50, then we're getting into hillbilly elegy territory, and it's a film from a well-known director that Netflix acquired that really isn't like, or that Netflix produced. I believe they didn't acquire this, they produced it from the get-go.
Hmm.
um I think once it gets below 50, then it has no chance. If it's in the 50s, then it's just divisive, very strongly so, and it still could get in for Best Picture, but I do have to admit, I think I probably will take it off just because I think the runtime too is going to hurt the movie. I don't know
Yeah.
how many people are going to make it to the end, especially on Netflix. As we saw, I think with The Irishman, why Robert De Niro doesn't get in for Best Actor is because his best scenes are at the end. How many people are making it to the end on Netflix? So it's interesting. He's definitely going a Terrence Malick approach, I would say, with this movie. And like Malick, you either love him or you hate him, and we just have to see whether the masses will, which side they will fall on for Bardo.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is a good sign because it started off on Rotten Tomatoes in the high 30s. So it has gone up to the 50s. So that is a sign if more people keep seeing it that it could keep going up. I do think it will remain divisive though, but yeah, I personally kicked it out of my top 10 for Best Picture now. I do still think there's a world if like more movies continue to disappoint and we're in a year of 10 movies, it could still maybe get in there. If the slate is truly that disappointing, but right now, I don't really see it happening. I do wonder what Netflix is truly going to push if Glass Onion, like say, places at TIFF and makes it into the top three, and gets great reviews there. Is that going to be their main Best Picture push? Are we going to have a year with like 3 sequel movies in Best Picture? There's not many sequel movies that have been nominated for Best Picture. All I can think of really are Toy Story 3, um,
Toy Story
The
3,
Godfather
Rings,
2.
Two Towers, then Return of the King. Return of the King winning. Both Godfathers got nominated.
Yeah,
I want to
that's
say
about
that.
it. I think that is it.
Yeah.
So sequels are not very common in Best Picture, but I think we could get multiple this year. But yeah, I right now I would say Glass Onion is probably their biggest push. But if Bardo gets screened more and like gets better reviews and begins to climb up, I do think they could circle back around to that. I do still think they might still push it in international feature, maybe in cinematography. I think it's probably still relatively strong in some of those categories, but overall, I've definitely bumped it down pretty much everywhere.
So, a couple others. The Bells of St. Mary's, which was a 1945 film.
Mhm.
That is a sequel. It there's this website is saying Silence of the Lambs, which I'm not quite sure. And if
What is
so,
that a
like
sequel to?
it was, yeah, I mean, maybe it was the second. They're saying it. Although The Silence of the Lambs isn't a direct sequel to Michael Mann's 1986 film Manhunter, it's based on the sequel novel to author Thomas
Oh,
Harris's Red Dragon.
eh,
Manhunter was based. So that's doesn't really
that's a
count. I'm
stretch.
saying Black Panther is a sequel because it's the 18th MCU movie.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And then the other one, the big one we missed was Mad Max Fury Road. But again, kind of a reboot,
Oh yeah,
not a
yeah,
what we're I mean, Top Gun would kind of fit in that category,
yeah.
but I also think because it has the same lead star in Top Gun, it plays more of a direct sequel. Black Panther is definitely
Hmm.
a direct sequel.
Avatar
Knives
2.
Out, Avatar 2, yeah. So it's yeah, a lot of it's interesting of that of the amount of sequels that are in play, and I feel like those are the types of blockbusters that are going to get in, if any are. They're all going to
Yeah.
be. It's not like we have a lot of original blockbusters. Like last year we had Dune.
Hmm.
2019 we had Joker essentially is an original. Um, in a way, it's based off of
Yeah.
prior, but it's an original interpretation.
We'll
So
have Elvis this year, I think. I personally think that's getting into picture. But
still, okay, okay.
yep,
Well, I
yep.
think what we can maybe do we're gonna do a whole updated predictions thing after TIFF, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
But maybe at the end of this episode, we'll give you
Go
our
R10.
predictions thus far.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Speaking of which, another film that has shaken up the race a little bit, Woman Talking debuted to rave reviews. I believe it started off in the 90s on Metacritic. I'm not sure if it's still there. But yeah, it screened at the Telluride Film Festival, and I didn't see a single negative. I saw, well, actually, I think I saw one negative review for it, maybe. But overall, it seems very, very much extremely good reviews. And it seems like it's got, I mean, I think we both already had it in our initial Oscar predictions, including Sarah Polley and some of the actors, but it seems like this is like pushing it even further up. I
It is
personally have
currently at 90 on Metacritic, which is
90. That's
very high.
very good. For Metacritic, that's like really, really good.
Yeah. You want to get like
Yeah.
you want to get above 80, really. Above 80
Yeah.
is good on Metacritic, and that
Yeah.
having a 9 in front of it, if it can maintain that 9,
It's
that'll
insane.
be that's talk to get into like that top 3 echelon of like La La Land, Moonlight, Manchester, or
Yeah.
when you have 3 movies battling it out at the top. That type of that's good. That's very good.
Yeah. I think this is definitely one of the top three this year. I honestly, I've put Sarah Polley into number one for director and adapted screenplay, just because I believe she's also
Oh,
received, she received, I forget what it was, like the silver something at Telluride that in the past few years went to Chloe Zhao and Jane Campion in the past few years, both of which ended up winning Best Director. And I just don't know if they're going to reward another director another Oscar, because the other contenders, Spielberg, Giselle, maybe
no,
Mendez.
I agree with your logic there. That was always my
Yeah.
issue with Best Director, is that are we really like what's so special about these other movies that we're going to want to give it to somebody who we've already honored? And that's why I think we've been looking at Everything Everywhere All at Once, or even something like Black Panther, because it's like, let's go somewhere interesting. And Spielberg and Giselle, like, we've done
Yeah,
that before in a
we
way.
have.
So what just hearing how positive people are, and that this seems to be defying the women's picture role that so many
Yeah.
nominees thrust it into, like the Little Women's, where like if you're going to win anything, you win costume design. Like that's what I was worried about this movie, is that a lot of men would discard it, and they still could,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But it seems to be that the film is so unanimously being applauded at this stage that you can't ignore that this could be a major contender. And we have seen, listen, 2020 Chloe Zhao, 2021 Jane Campion. I could see Sarah Polley following in that trajectory.
Yeah,
So, and then
that'd be
as I think
nice.
you said on Twitter, then 2023 Greta Gerwig or
Greta
something.
Gerwig. Yeah, just all the 2020s, just give it to female directors.
Yeah,
Just
we'll
the
we'll
whole
even it out
decade.
after a couple decades.
Yeah, yeah. Even it out. Yeah, totally. But yeah, I also I think also in terms of best picture, I think this is one of the top two or three to win. Another statistic is I think in like the last 15 or so years, only one film that won best picture was from a director whose previous films had won best picture, which was Inarritu with Birdman. So I think that's all. It often goes to a film directed by someone who has not had a film win Best Picture before, which this year, all you're really looking at for that in terms of contenders are Women Talking and Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's really it, honestly. I don't think She Said is going to be contending for picture win. Um, so yeah, I also think it's a very, in terms of this year, a very timely pick, as we saw happen with Moonlight. I think this year, especially with Roe v. Wade and everything happening with women's rights and the subject matter of this movie, I do think it could also be a very timely pick for Best Picture. So I'm between that and Everything Everywhere All at Once in terms of winning Best Picture right now.
Wow. Yeah, it's definitely. I think it's definitely in conversation. It would probably be in my top two, top three, top two.
Yeah,
Up there.
yeah, totally. And
And then performance wise, I think this
yeah,
one, excuse me.
the performances were that good. Um, yeah, Jesse Buckley and Claire Foy seems to be the main standouts of the ensemble from the tweets in terms of performances.
Yeah, I'm
And
sorry, I got a little too excited.
yeah,
Could this be where we see two nominations for a single
yeah,
film? Because
I would think
I
so.
think we were maybe thinking, could The Sun be that in Vanessa Kirby and Laura Dern? But I think it could be Claire Foy and Jessie Buckley, which Jessie Buckley, of course, I think Claire Foy has the prestige because she's an Emmy winner for The Crown, so people know who
Hmm.
she is. And then Jessie Buckley, of course, got nominated last year for The Lost Daughter. So I think both of them are
Yeah.
surefire bets.
Make up for the first man snub too,
Yeah. So yeah. Oh my God. Yes. She should have won, in my opinion, for that performance. I love that film.
Very good.
So yeah. So I definitely think Women Talking, I think, is going to play a lot. It's definitely going to be an above the line person. It's winner. It's, I
Hmm.
think, the only thing it maybe has. I mean, we maybe cinematography, maybe editing.
Maybe.
Editing, I could see happening. I think editing would be a good sign for its Best Picture
For
chances.
yeah.
You know, we've seen movies like Green Book get editing nominations. So I think it probably wants to go the Marriage Story trajectory and then just hope it can net some more wins than Marriage
Yeah.
Story. Get
Yeah,
get a
totally.
couple, two or three acting, get screenplay, get director, which Marriage Story did not,
Hmm.
and then get picture. So we'll see. I'm still worried about men being interested in this movie just because I've been following this long enough to know that men a lot of times don't
Yeah.
want to support these type of movies, or it's not even support. They have an unconscionable thing that they just don't relate to them. They can't connect with them,
Yeah.
as we've seen with movies like Little Women and a lot of films. I think when you look back and the few like um Nomadland was an exception because of the pandemic year, and then Shape of Water, it kind of makes sense. I wouldn't even call that like it feels weird to call that a female-led movie in a way, and still so
Yeah.
that was the year of Me Too. So kind of so like I feel like rarely do we see female-led films get a win in Best Picture on their own, and they're talking about women's stories, women issues. So that's still something we have to see when it comes to the masses. Do they welcome in women talking as much as people who are going to attend festivals are more likely going to be open and
Yeah.
receptive, critical, as we've seen with Bardo. But I think they're not going to turn off a movie because it has a POV that they may not necessarily have lived as well. So
Hmm.
that's just the one thing I think Women Talking has to overcome. But it looks like it very well could, based on these reactions.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll get in there. I think it will really depend on winning if it can also resonate with that crowd who would maybe be more hesitant to reward that kind of movie. So yeah, I would also just yeah, I would agree that I think right now I do have Jessie Buckley and Claire Foy being our current double nominees in the supporting category this year, which seems to be a consistent trend of the past 5 or so years. So yeah, that is Women Talking. Now let's talk about another movie that debuted with good Metacritic scores. We're going to be talking about Tar, starring Kate Blanchett, directed by Todd Field, his first film in 16 years. It's a fictional movie about a composer. And yeah, the reviews for this were very good. It debuted in the 90s on Metacritic. I think it's still around the 90s. But some people saying it's a little pretentious. It seems like the kind of movie that would play well with the Venice crowd, but like maybe not so well with the general public. They may be more divided on that. I've already seen a lot of comparisons to this being this year's Spencer in terms of which also debuted in the 90s at Venice, but then later went much further down once the general audience saw it. That it very much could be that where it may not be like a huge overall contender, but that lead performance is still strong enough to get in there, despite the movie not being like super palatable for some people.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think Kate Blanchett definitely has a very strong chance in getting an actress.
Oh, for
And
sure. Yeah.
the question is just then, does this have an I, Tonya trajectory where it gets in a couple places, but then misses out Best Picture? It's probably the one film that is like the 11 spot. Or does it get in? I think that we what's I think what's it's good about this movie is, as you said, the high Metacritic scores and the fact that it's a movie that, because it has a well-known star in its lead, people will seek it out because of Kate Blanchett. And then it could be that type of unconventional movie that really clicks with them. Your tree of life in a way. We mentioned Malik with
Yeah.
the Bardo. I feel like Tar could in a way step in and take that Bardo spot. I don't see a world maybe where both of them get in. I mean, maybe, but I feel like that one spot will be filled with either movie. And I think based off these first responses, Tar is probably the more likely film to benefit from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, I don't have it getting into picture just because I think it is going to be divisive, especially with Academy members who, I would say their taste seems to line up a little more with the general public than it does with, say, like a Venice, more like criticky kind of crowd. So yeah, I think Blanchett is definitely going to get nominated. I think she seems pretty surefire. People say it's some of her best work yet. So I think she'll be in there. I don't know if she's win competitive. That would be a third Oscar for her, but as we just saw with Frances McDormand recently, I mean that doesn't always hold them back from giving you another win. Um,
If people, the thing that we have to remember about why people like Frances McDormand win their third, I think it's different than Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep, I think they were just, she had been nominated so many times
yeah,
that at some point they were like, well, like, there was just a feeling like she had become a bridesmaid in a way, which is so weird that like Meryl Streep is overdue.
hmm
Um, but I think when it comes to Frances and it comes to Kate Blanchett, is that they, if people think this is their best work, they usually then go all the way because we know they're good. Frances
yeah,
McDormand benefited with Three Billboards and with Nomadland because some people were so impressed with her more so than ever before. And that's what I think Kate Blanchett will benefit from because the last time she won for Blue Jasmine, and then the time before, I believe, was for Elizabeth. This is a very different role than those. And
hmm
I think if Tar gets into Best Picture, I think she has a really strong chance
yeah,
because it would be a very similar trajectory to Kate Blanchett as your Frances McDormand. You could look at Michelle Yeoh as your Viola Davis, kind of this titan who had been waiting for a leading role for so long, and many people probably would she's probably a lot of people's passion pick. And then Vanessa Kirby, sorry, not Vanessa Kirby, Margot Robbie would be your Carey Mulligan as kind of this up and comer who's had one previous nomination in this category. Margot Robbie has also been nominated in the supporting category for Bombshell. So I think
hmm
you could see a very similar pattern happen where if Tar gets rave reviews upon its general release and is able to maintain them, I think Kate Blanchett is possible, especially because if the movie gets into Best Picture and they want to give it something, Kate Blanchett would obviously be the thing they could give it. And people
yeah,
would agree on that. With Babylon, you're going to get a lot of people who want to support it in the crafts, a lot of people who may want to support Brad Pitt. You know, the film could be it could do the La La Land of there are so many things that then they feel like they got it covered by the time it comes to one of these bigger awards. And then
yeah,
everything everywhere all at once. I love the movie. I'm still just waiting to see if the movie is able to have this second wave because a lot of these A24 movies, especially when they come out earlier in the year, people talk about them in terms of Oscar because it was the only movie really that could be talked about of Oscar this early on. And so
hmm
now I'm just because I showed it to my family. And for a majority of the runtime, they were like, what is happening? And they were so compelled to turn it off because there was so much happening. It's a lot of random absurdity. And it's a lot of multiverse. Like that was always the thing with this is that the multiverse thing, like, is that going to go over a lot of people's heads? By the end of
hmm
it, they really loved it because it ends so strongly. It's
yeah.
whether people get to the end of everything everywhere all at once and don't turn it off that is going to make that movie. It's going to make or break it. And especially because we're going to see a lot of genre films, a lot of blockbusters succeed. Will Everything Everywhere stand out as much among this year's Best Picture crop? So as
I think
just
it will.
yeah, I still think it could, but I'm just that's why I'm like I feel very strongly about Kate Blanchett's chances because looking at her other nominees, she does I think have a clear trajectory to win, especially if the movie is well received, which I'm going to go as far and say I think it will take the Bardo spot of the very intellectual, very off-kilter Best Picture nominee, especially in a year of 10.
Yeah, yeah. I personally wouldn't have it in there right now. I also do just think I think the critics associations and their end of the year awards is very much going to help everything everywhere all at once. You'd stay around and in people's minds during award season. I think it's probably going to get in there. And I think it could be one of the top contenders for picture, but that's really something we aren't going to be able to figure out until we start hitting some of the industry nominations, for sure, to see how they receive it. But yeah, in terms of Tar, I'd say mostly just Kate Blanchett. I mean, Todd Field has gotten a lot of, I think he was nominated for a screenplay in both of his past films at the Oscars. this is only his third film, so it's not like it's like a consistent track record, but he's gotten Oscar
I don't
wins
think
for his
anything is a
movies.
consistent track record if it's been 16 years since he's made a movie.
Yeah, yeah. So I think maybe screenplay, original screenplay, but that's also a crowded screenplay category. Right now, I'm just gonna stick with Blanchett. If Hildur was not doing another score, which she's doing the score for Women Talking, I would say maybe she could get nominated for this, but I think she'll be nominated for Women Talking, kind of like Johnny
Not
Greenwood
a
was
composer
nominated.
though, right? It's
Yeah,
hard.
yeah,
So she could Alexandre Desplat get 2 nominations
she
if they
could. She
still
very well could.
allow 2 nominations in a single category.
Yes. Yes, I think that's possible. I think Women Talking is just going to be the bigger contender overall, so that might end up getting it. Now moving on to a film that just screened a few hours ago at Venice, The Whale. Um, Very anticipated by a lot of people, anticipating Brendan Fraser's big like comeback, the Fraser Sans, as well as Sadie Sink, who seems to be getting some praise for her performance in the film. Um, Started off the first as the first views became trickling in. Started off pretty positive. It seems to be rather mixed now. I would say leaning mixed positive. Lots of people, everyone seems to be praising Fraser, which was to be expected. I think regardless of how the film was received, I thought he was still going to get into actor just because actor is a very, especially with all the movies being delayed or poorly received, a very
Barren wasteland.
barren wasteland. Yeah. Can we just take some of the like supporting actors and actress spots and just like put them in some of the male spots? Because I feel like those are going to like have a lot more potential in them this year. But but yeah, I've always contended that this movie's really going to be just Fraser, and I don't think it's going to get much else besides makeup. Maybe not. Maybe it'll definitely
I
get
could see
makeup.
a Sadie Sink nomination after all these. Imagine this is
Maybe.
completely different than our Emmy conversation where you were pro Sadie
Oh
Sink.
God, yeah,
I don't think that's
exactly.
going to happen for Stranger Things, and
I've been hurt too many times. I'm not gonna go for it.
we'll see. We have to see what the type of what the movie is. In fact, I don't see this going a Black Swan route. I feel like Black Swan, because again, it had to do with the art industry. It was about dance and this ballet school, and also because Black Swan was just such a brilliant film. I feel like that
Yeah,
played better. It also, I think, benefited from one of the first year. Was it the first? I think it was the second year of like you must have 10 back after The Dark Knight because it was 2010, and so
Black
I think
Swan.
Black Swan was the second year that they demanded you all must have 10
I
nominees.
think Black Swan was a year of five, if I believe.
No, because it was 2010 and they started doing that after The Dark Knight, which was 2008. Because I know because it
Oh,
this
okay.
Toy Story 3 got in there and films like that. That District 9 was the Best Picture nominee the year before. So I
Yeah.
think Black Swan also benefited from that because I do think there was some awareness of let's try to get in some unconventional picks to show that we are diverse in terms of what can be nominated for Best Picture. Um, so we'll see when The Whale is seen more widely. I don't have this in Best Picture, and I find it very difficult just because it's based on a play, which I do think puts you at a disadvantage from the get-go, just because adaptation is hard, especially when adapting
Yeah.
something from, I assume, one location. If not, it's a limited location.
Hmm.
I think after this, and after seeing a lot of the responses, his own tearful standing ovation, I think Brendan Fraser is definitely a very strong contender for actor. And I would
Hmm.
say that I think Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Supporting Actress are also possible, as well as a Best Makeup, most likely a win at this point. I think he will probably go hand in hand with the makeup win, as we've
Oh, you
seen.
think he's gonna win?
At this point, I'm going to say so because I think he follows a Jessica Chastain route. He follows a Gary Oldman route, and also just because I'm his biggest competitor is probably Hugh Jackman, and I don't, I don't. It's what you usually describe when we were talking about Cody Smith McPhee, and you don't see it happening.
Yeah.
I
It's
just
just like
don't
a
see it
gut
happening.
feeling. Yeah.
I just there's something about it. I don't see Hugh Jackman walking home with an Oscar when you have a when because what Hugh Jackman is it's not transformative, so it's going to only be on these like big dramatic monologues and that type of thing. Was The Son a play as well in its original
They're
form?
all plays, yeah. The
Yes.
father, the son, and the mother.
Yeah, so the Sun and the Whale are both plays. So that's interesting. But I feel like I just feel like the Sun is going to be, even though I think the Sun will get a Best Picture nomination and be more widely nominated, I think that in the end hurts the Sun because you have to be really, really good to also stand apart. Like, I think you have to be so extraordinary that even though there are so many other places to award your film, you still stand out. Um, where I don't think that's the case with The Whale. I think The Whale is going to have fewer nominations. So if you're going to want to
Yeah.
support The Whale, you're going to put it directly at Brendan Fraser, and he more or less is the movie. So why
Hmm.
not award him? And I also think he'll have a great narrative, as we've already seen thus far. So I think this bodes really well for him maintaining a Best Actor run, but I still am a
Yeah.
little bit cautious about a Best Picture possibility for this movie because it will be so different, and because I feel like a lot of people will say, well, we're nominating Brendan Fraser, he is the movie. But again, we've seen things like Joker, where we felt like, well, Joaquin Phoenix is the movie, and yet the movie still gets Best Picture, so nomination. So
Hmm.
it's possible that it could get more, but at this point in time, I'm going to stick to the two actors and an adapted screenplay, and then a makeup win. I definitely think it's winning makeup. We'll see if it goes hand in hand with Fraser, but at this point, I think it will.
Yeah, I also just have doubts because I think A24 cannot handle two movies in Best Picture. Personally, I think campaign wise, and I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is going to be their main push. I think this will like be a mostly Brendan Fraser push. I have almost like an opposite thing as you. I have Elvis currently winning makeup and Austin Butler winning actor. So
Interesting.
opposite switch. I do think that makeup and lead acting combo is a pretty strong one.
Wrong. My worry about Elvis, I think Elvis did very strong at the box office. Was very
Hmm.
respectable there. It hit HBO Max this past weekend, so we'll see
Yeah.
how it goes there. My worry with Elvis is I just I wonder how that movie plays on a screener, which I
Yeah.
think a lot of how many people are going to be seeing Elvis when it comes to awards consideration. And I do wonder how much Baz Luhrmann's just style isn't for everybody. I think the way, which, Darren Aronofsky is definitely not, clean cut, safe Oscar bait. But I do think that the mentality that people will go into The Whale because of release date, which is another whole crazy thing. But because it's
Yeah.
a fall release, people will have Oscar on the mind more, where I'm not quite sure people had that with Elvis. I think people went in thinking it was a fun summer hit, like a lot of Baz Luhrmann's other movies. And I also think that Elvis hurts itself and any movie in the genre because you're going to have the Whitney Houston I Want to Dance with Somebody also coming out for Christmas. So you're going to have two movies very similar duking it out. And we'll see how that one fares, but it does have the writer of Bohemian Rhapsody. So you got
Hmm.
somebody there who's been shown to have success in this genre at the Oscars before. But
Yeah.
I wonder, the Whale I think will be more significant and will be more distinct than Elvis will. And because of that, I think there will be more incentive to award it. So with the release date, the fact that it's Brendan Fraser, people know who he is. People don't know who Austin Butler is, too.
They do
And
now.
they do now, but I wonder if they know him as the guy from Elvis and not Austin Butler. People know Brendan Fraser. They're not going to know him as the guy from The Whale. And I think, listen, that could help him because, I mean, you could say that that's how Bohemian Rhapsody won Best Actor, that they just said, oh, the guy who played Freddie Mercury, he was great, give him the win. Um,
Hmm.
how much wide known appeal did Rami Malek have outside of Mr. Robot? But I mean, Austin Butler has less than Rami Malek.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's tough. I gotta wait and see because it's Elvis is not going to be a movie that the critics groups support. It's
Mm-mm.
going to be solely on these big award shows. So like the Golden Globes would have to come through for Austin Butler. But even when the Golden Globes come through for these type of movies, I mean, Taron Egerton won Golden Globe for
Yeah.
Best Actor in Musical Comedy. He got a SAG nomination and he still didn't get into Best Actor. So I could see Austin Butler going down a similar trajectory, especially because he's essentially, except if you're growing up on Nickelodeon and Disney Channel in the late
Mhm.
2000s, early 2010s, he's an unknown to you.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. It could help him though, because they just think he is Elvis and there's nothing else getting in the way of that performance that he could benefit. It is interesting comparing the two, Fraser to Butler. We'll see which one can come out on top.
Yeah, yeah, I do think he'll definitely get into actor just because it is like very limited category right now. And I also think just because Warner Brothers doesn't really have any other movie to push besides this movie, Don't Worry Darling, I don't think it's gonna pan out.
Really, I
With
wonder why.
everything, yeah, everything that's going on with that, I don't think so.
Maybe
And
we can
it
talk to Miss Flo about it.
Yeah, Miss Flo, who's not doing any press for it. Can you blame her? But
Oh, I cannot. Power to her. I tweeted
yeah.
out. It's like, ScarJo. I don't know if she didn't go to the premiere because of the issue with the Black Widow Disney Plus release, but she
Hmm.
definitely, she made her case known, and
Yeah.
she got her paycheck for after with the lawsuit. And I think, Florence Pugh, I think being in a similar situation where being a part of Black Widow, and Marvel, and now Dune, and maybe she's like she has so many different like career opportunities that like
Yeah, she's got a lot.
she can do this, and she can fight for her own dignity. I'm proud of I'm proud to be a fan.
Yeah, yeah, totally. She is leaving that situation unscathed. But I do think that is Warner Brothers' big push, and Warner Brothers usually gets at least one movie into picture most years. And they also, I feel like it's also the kind of movie like we were talking about with Women Talking, how that wouldn't really appeal to maybe some of the older Academy members. I feel like it's a kind of movie that is resonating a lot with an older audience. So I do think that could be a passion pick for some of the older Academy members who may have more fondness for Elvis and that style of film. So yeah, but we've already seen Elvis. This is about the festivals. But yeah, anything else on the whale? Or I think we got it covered.
I think we got it covered. Should we move on
Yeah.
to Empire of Light?
Empire of Light, Sam Mendes' next film. Olivia Colman, Michael, I think Mikel Ward is how it's pronounced. Colin Firth. It's about it takes place pretty much in a movie by the coast or a movie theater by the coast. Um, from what I saw initially on Twitter, it seems like very positive reviews from a lot of people.
This
Like
seems to be a very
very positive.
emotionally driven film. I mean, when you hear Sam Mendes, Olivia Colman movie about
Roger
how
Deakins.
great movies are, we're done. That's getting nominated. I
Yeah.
don't think there should be
And
no
Roger Deakins,
Roger
Trenton
Deakins.
Reznor.
Exactly. Like I think Coleman will get nominated because it's Olivia Colman and she's
Yeah.
deserving. And this is a very different type of movie than those of the past. So she'll benefit. Mikel Ward could, Sam Mendes, Roger Deakins. This is probably an above and below the line with potential player here. Yeah, I think this is a very strong chance. I think this fills the role of a Belfast, of a La La Land. These movies that remind people why they love movies. It's surprisingly effective if you want to get an Oscar.
Yeah. Yeah. It did after those initial reactions start getting a little more mixed though. It is now, I believe, in the 60s on Metacritic. So it's not like completely like praised, but I do think it is a kind of movie that especially would resonate with academy members more than it would with critics who may be a little more used to the kind of trick of like making your movies about movies. They may be past that where it may still work on some academy members.
And let's see what
And
the general audience. I think this is going to be a general
yeah,
audience. I think putting aside our blockbuster contenders, I think this has the best chance of being one of our better box office performers out of the best picture crop. So I
I
think
don't know.
that
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it'll
the Fablemans and Babylon will also do pretty good. Also,
yeah, definitely. I think
yeah,
that's why
seems like a good box office year.
yeah, definitely. So
Yeah. But
um
this is also Fox Searchlight's biggest push this season, and they are
yeah.
very good at awards. So I think it'll get in there. And yeah, I would say Coleman. I don't know if Ward is being pushed in supporting or lead, but both of those categories are pretty barren, so he could probably make it into either if the passion for his performance is there. And then I think I'll get a lot of text. You got Deacon, you got the score, you
Yeah.
got all that.
And I think with two is that Searchlight, because actor and supporting actor are a little bit more barren than usual, they then have to ask themselves where they think he could win. Because we haven't seen the movie, but the fact that
Mhm.
he's a lot of people are not forgetting his name in the same sentence as Olivia Colman is very telling. And I think, listen, Searchlight pulled off Olivia Colman winning for The Favorite. And that was a really
Yeah.
rich move when it came to positioning what category she went into. So I think it's, it's possible. I think with Killers of the Flower Moon out of there, that's 3 spots potentially
Hmm.
uh that need to be filled. And so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yes. And then some other movies that screen that probably aren't going to be huge Oscar contenders, but are worth mentioning. Bones and All, Luca Guadagnino's next film, Timothy Chalamet, Taylor Russell, about cannibals, like a cannibal coming of age love
Critics will eat it up.
romance.
I think that'll be where that movie
Yeah.
ends.
Yeah. I will love it, I'm sure, but I don't think it'll get many Academy. Who knows? I mean, with supporting actor and actor being so limited, maybe Timothy, but I doubt it because they don't I don't know if they're gonna go for it.
If he couldn't get in for Beautiful Boy over Sam Rockwell and
Don't
Fraser,
remind me.
I don't think this cannibal love story is going to happen.
No, no. But I will very much enjoy the movie. And Luca Guadagnino yet to be nominated for Best Director. Let's make that happen someday, please. And then also worth mentioning, White Noise, which was one of the first movies. Another Netflix contender, mixed to pretty positive reviews. I think it's like at a 70 on Metacritic, but people are just saying it's maybe a little dense, and it's like just like the book. People said the book was unadaptable, which they also said about Dune. So I don't know how true these statements can truly be because this is getting pretty positive reviews. But yeah, I don't know how much of an Oscar contender it could be. Maybe since adapted screenplay is so limited, it could get into that. Maybe actor for Adam Driver, since that's also very limited. But
I
I
could
don't
see
know.
that. It depends. Maybe Netflix shifts and they go behind this movie, and it could happen. I actually think that's maybe possible, is that they shift from Bardo to White Noise, which of course a Bomback Driver combo
Yeah,
did very well for them last
and
time.
Greta Gerwig returning to
Yeah,
acting.
Greta Gerwig returning to acting. So I think this could play. This could be a movie that
It could.
if because I need to look up the log line again, but I could see this type
It's
of
confusing.
a little confusing. Yeah.
It's
Uh,
yeah, it's a guy who like
if
is
it
like
doesn't want to tell you what it's
Hitler
about,
studies, and it's about like a family's dealing with like love and life, and yeah, it's very very broad, as I'm sure the movie will be. But yeah, I do think Netflix could switch over to this. It could
I
end
feel
up
like
being that.
it just depends if this movie can play to the masses, and this is like a well seen. If this is the most well seen Netflix contender,
Yeah.
then maybe it could materialize into something. So we'll keep our eye out on this one. But I agree. I think that maybe Adam Driver gets in there in a way that like Denzel sometimes gets in solely
For
just because.
Macbeth. Yeah.
Yeah, which would be great for Adam Driver at this early in his career to be able to stand apart from the rest of the movie.
Hmm.
So we'll see. I do wonder though that if I feel like when you have combos like Bomback Driver, then you're being compared to your previous combo, and to
True.
compare anything to Marriage Story is
It's a high
difficult.
bar. It's a high
Yeah, it's
bar.
high.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Very high bar. We'll also have to see how it's received by other crowds. Right now, this is just the Venice crowd receiving it. So, as we've talked about with other movies, that's a specific group of people. That's a like more niche group of people. So, with these movies, we also have to see how they play with other crowds. Like this is also going to the New York Film Festival, which I think it could be received very well at. It seems like a kind of movie that might resonate there a little more. Believe Baumbach being from New York. So yeah, I think maybe we'll have to see how it plays to other people. But I would say look out for it right now. I wouldn't have it in picture, but I'd say look out for it because Netflix is running out of things to do. But yeah, that's
All
really
right.
it. And also, the Sun trailer came out. Not a great trailer, but it looks like the performances are very good in it. I didn't like any of the trailers or marketing for The Father either, and that was a great movie. So I still have a ton of faith in it.
Yeah. So we shall see. With the Sun. With that though, should we get into our current 10 best picture
Yes, let's
predictions?
do it.
Okay, would you like to go first?
Sure. Okay. My number one right now, I'm gonna keep it as Everything Everywhere All at Once, just because I think they might do like a director picture split. So I'm gonna have Everything Everywhere All at Once be the winner because I can see there being a lot of passion for that movie. I think that's essential for any picture win, being a lot of passion. I think it could end up winning SAG Ensemble. I think it could be that kind of film. So that's my number one. My number two is Women Talking, which is another movie I could sense a lot of passion and relevancy surrounding it, and I could also see it winning SAG Ensemble. Um, then beyond that, I'll put then The Fablemans, then I'll put Babylon, then I'll put The Sun, then I'll put Elvis, then I'll put Empire of Light, Then I'll say Black Panther 2. That's the blockbuster I have the most faith in, as we talked about. Then Top Gun Maverick. And then my last spot, I'll give it to She Said, because I think that is being underrated right now. And we're running out of options in the 10. So I'll put She Said there. So that's my 10.
So we agree on 8 of the same pick.
Okay. That's pretty
Um,
good.
yes, we agree on Everything Everywhere All at Once, Babylon, The Sun, The Fablemans, Women Talking. Um, this is not in order, by the way. Empire of
Mhm.
Light, uh, and Top Gun Maverick. As I have said previously, I am still maintaining that Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is in the lead for my
Oh, it's your number one. Yeah.
still my number one. I still think that it's obviously going to emotionally affect people in ways that few movies can. I think it's also going to be a really exciting, thrilling movie that people want to keep revisiting. And the reason why I have it at number one more than everything else is I think in the preferential balloting system, I think there'll be, I imagine there'll be a lot of respect for the fact that these people came together in this moment of grief to make this movie. And I
Yeah.
think there'll be, even if people don't necessarily love the movie, I think there might be a lot of show of respect for the fact that this movie exists in the first place. So,
Mhm.
and as you said, I think it's difficult right now searching for in this waiting period, like, okay, what's going to have enough passion to make its way all the way to Best Picture? That's the type of movie that I
That
think
would be one. Yeah.
would. So until I see something like, Women Talking's response is so far the only thing that I think has come close, but at the same time, we have to see if that type of movie can go all the way.
Mhm.
You need those movies that make you cry, and so I think Black Panther is definitely going to make you cry. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm looking at this stage. That's what I'm looking for, where the masses have not seen the majority of these movies. And
Everything Everywhere made a lot of people cry also.
yes, that's why I think Everything Everywhere is the last 20 minutes of Everything Everywhere is what is going to
Essential.
get into this category. Without that, I don't
Yeah.
think it had a chance. Um, but that last 20 minutes is special. So,
Mhm.
and I imagine Empire of Light will make people cry. We have to see about Women Talking. That's why I'm waiting. Because I might put that at number one, but I also don't want to put it at number one now because then I think then people will La La Land it and then it won't make its way all the way.
True.
So I'll wait to put Women Talking at one
Yeah.
until like January, and then we'll.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Fablemans, I think, will make people cry. The Sun will probably make people cry. Um,
It's a different kind of cry, but
the
yeah.
other, yeah, and then the other two movies I have that you don't. One
Okay.
of them will definitely make people cry, and that's Till. I think
Oh, okay.
a really strong movie. I think we need a historical type of biopic in here. You have
Elvis.
and I have Till because I think Till has a better release date for the awards campaign. I think Daniel Deadweiler is somebody I'm predicting for um, Best Actress.
Actress.
Get in there, but I also think when I look at the trailer, like the way that film is shot isn't a typical type of biopic. It doesn't seem to be, at least. Maybe it's a very good cut trailer, but I think this is going to be a type of movie that you'll see people like buying out theaters to bring people to come see. I think this is going to be an important movie, and it's also going to be a very emotionally affecting film. So I'm going to put Till there, and then I have Tar in here because I think that's going to be
Mm.
your somewhat pretentious, but pretentious in the best ways, offbeat, off kilter, critical darling. I think similar to a Drive My Car. But speaking of Drive My Car, I think we did see, I think, a film from Cannes. We could see a Cannes favorite. I also think get in here.
Most likely Triangle of Sadness, if I were
Yes,
to guess.
Triangle of
That's the one
Sadness.
that won.
But I feel like with Kate Blanchett, I feel like Tar probably has a good chance. We'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
that's where I stand with Best Picture, and we have to. Of course, we're still 2 months out from Black Panther, so we'll see when I see them.
Hmm.
If I still maintain that it's number one, but I mean, after that trailer, I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's a great trailer.
I
Yeah.
think it's going to be hard. Also, I think Top Gun, now that it's past $700 at the domestic box office, I think it's pretty guaranteed to
And
be.
we've got some contenders dropping out too that opens up more spaces. Yeah. In terms of Till, that trailer didn't instill a lot of confidence in me personally. Um, but I think we shall see. We'll have to see how it's received. I know it also had some controversy around it kind of being kind of like one of those like trauma, like exploiting trauma kind of movies. But maybe. And then Tar, as we mentioned earlier, I think it might be a little too pretentious, but I think there's also a world where in a field of 10 that it maybe could get in there. And
Yeah.
also, as we mentioned, look out for Triangle of Sadness. Maybe Bardo comes back around, but I doubt it.
And maybe The Whale.
And maybe Avatar, you know, never doubt James Cameron.
Doubt him.
I
Listen,
just
his
don't know how many
last two
blockbusters.
movies got Best Picture nominated.
Yeah, yeah.
Those last two
That's a
movies were
lot of
Titanic and
blockbusters.
Avatar, though.
Yeah, it's been a while. Kind of like that whole Todd Field thing. I don't know how much those statistics count when it's
I don't know.
been
I
two
just
whole decades.
my thing for Tar is just I feel like we have so many crowd pleasers: Black Panther, Top Gun, Fablemans, Everything Everywhere, Empire of Light. I needed to put something that's had a little bit more like austerity to it.
Yeah,
Is
true,
the right
true,
word.
true. And I'd also just say maybe Banshees of Inisherin because that's another Searchlight movie, and they are very good at pushing their films. And I don't believe the Glass Onion hype currently, but if that's truly Netflix's big push, maybe. But who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah,
I
but
would put Glass Onion below Avatar, though.
yeah, I'd have them around the same spot, to be honest. I'm not, yeah. I think just like Netflix is gonna have to pick, I think Disney will have to pick between
But
Black
like,
Panther and
I think
Avatar.
Glass Onion is just like, and I love the first one, but I'm speaking as like an Oscar campaign. Like, what are we honoring there? Like it's not
Writing.
like the craft is going to be that great, and I don't see any of the performances sticking out.
People are mentioning Janelle Monáe is very good in it, but that's all I've seen.
If she couldn't get in for Hidden Figures, which I think she should have, but Octavia Spencer
Supporting
got,
actress is also very crowded, so yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's like I don't get like it's got to be better than the first one. That's the first benchmark it's got to hit, and I don't know if it can do
Hmm.
that because the first one was great. So
Yeah,
listen, I love you, Ryan, and I will, and power to you. But when I keep hearing this thing, I'm like Glass Onion. I'm like, really?
yeah,
Especially with, even in a year that there weren't many other sequels, we have like three other sequels that could logically get in. Like,
yeah.
I still think it's a possibility that Avatar just wows everybody at the last minute. Because the thing
Hmm.
was helpful now that we've seen both trailers, if you honor Black Panther and you honor Avatar, you're honoring them for different reasons. Um,
Tech reasons for Avatar, I would say more emotional reasons for Black Panther.
yes, yes. But even so, like their water worlds are completely different.
Very
So
different, yeah.
I think that's what helps them is that if you're running campaigns for those two movies, are very different. So like I don't know, just we'll see. We'll see with Glass
Yeah,
Onion. It seems
yeah. I think
in a way that will not help it.
yeah, I would say right now I just would have it getting it would be a sole screenplay nom for me currently right now. But yeah, we'll see. But those are our updated picture predictions. That's our thoughts on what's happening at the festivals right now. In terms of festivals to come, we've got TIFF, I believe the 10th to the 18th. We've got movies like The Fablemans screening there, amongst other things. We got a lot of the big contenders screened already, so we've got reviews for a lot of them. I think we still need to see reviews for The Sun. I believe that's screening at Venice, so that is upcoming. And I can't think of anything else right now off the top of my head because Babylon is not going to any festivals. So it seems like we're getting a pretty good lay of the field right now with these festivals. We'll have an even better idea soon. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Comment your predictions and thoughts on all these festivals and all that stuff that has happened there and how they've changed your Oscar predictions down below. Which of these movies are you most excited for now based on the reviews? What is your current Best Picture top 10? And stay tuned for more Oscar coverage in the upcoming weeks. Like the video, subscribe. As the title says, it's weekly Oscar talk, so we'll be here weekly covering the latest in the Oscar news. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching. Anthony, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on the internets at various websites, including Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Anthony_Post. You can also find me here on YouTube, spoilers ahead with Anthony Post, where I'm about to, start up the channel again after a break in August. Not much happening in August, so it's not like I
No,
missed,
yeah,
but you'll be seeing a lot of coverage surrounding a lot of these movies as I'll try to get reviews out as they are released. And also, we're in a crazy place for genre TV. You got House of the Dragon,
oh
got
my
Rings of
god,
Power,
yeah,
Hulk, got Andor. So, and we got Disney Plus Day coming up. So, a lot of
it's a
news.
lot.
Make sure to check out the channel. Jack, where can they find you?
Oscar Film FC on Twitter, where I will be tweeting about Barbie most of the time, Barbie and Dune 2, and anything Timothy Chalamet is in. So that's where I will be tweeting that stuff. And yeah, so like the video, comment, subscribe, and we will see you all next week.